Hello folks, you are in for a treat today because a friend of mine, Manny Alicandro, who lives in New York City right at ground zero of the apocalypse or the pandemic, has been documenting what's been going on in New York City for the past 9 months. And Manny, who lives there of course, is gonna give you a little window into what's been going on, how it's been changing, and exactly what happened when the zombies all left. Because that's about what it's been like. It's been crazy, but this guy's been documenting everything from Financial District on up to the Upper East and West Sides, as well as down in Chinatown, Koreatown, and so forth. I know you're gonna like seeing exactly what Manny saw. So through your eyes, Manny, tell us a little bit about what it's been like to be in New York City.
Thanks, John. It's been a long 9 months. This is Manny Alicandro. We're in the Financial District in New York City, and we're right at the foot of the New York Stock Exchange as well on Broad Street. New York City has not really come back, unfortunately, from the coronavirus pandemic lockdowns. We are starting to finally see the glimmers of light, and certain things are opening up. But New York really isn't the same. Our restaurants are pretty much still closed down except for outdoor dining. There's a new regulation now that restaurants could open at the end of September with limited capacity, 25% capacity, and a bunch of requirements like disinfectants, HVACs, and making sure that the ventilation systems are properly flowing. So we'll see what that is like at the end of the month. But right now we're limited to outdoor dining. New York is trying to open up, but we're really not there. I really hope things open up soon because I feel like our economy really needs us to open up.
The weather looks great there. I wish I could come back, and you better be careful because I might be back there before you know it.
Hey John, you definitely should come back to New York City. I think right now, the fall season is definitely the time to come. Hopefully, I pray, I'm optimistic that things will come back to normal, maybe even a new normal. We're not quite there yet, but if you come back to New York right now, to the extent you could go to things that are opening and that are opened, you pretty much have an opportunity to explore aspects of New York that maybe you never saw before because there aren't that many tourists here. So it is an opportunity to get to see New York in a unique way, albeit not with a lot of people, and maybe certain things not open, but to the extent what you want to see and where you want to go is open, now is the time to come to New York. We're going to go to one of my favorite restaurants, Edwards in Tribeca.
Edwards and Odeon right there in Tribeca. I've eaten there, and I think you really bring them to life.
Yeah, so we're at Edwards right now in Tribeca, and Edwards and Odeon across the street. These are institutions in Tribeca in a neighborhood on West Broadway, and usually a lot of people come out. We see some people out here for brunch on Sunday. New York is definitely a brunch town and a brunch city, but because everything was shut down for the whole summer, we lost billions of dollars in revenue. It's a big problem. A lot of restaurants closed down. We have 300,000 employees approximately that work in restaurants in New York City and around restaurants. I'm worried that they're not going to be employed. A lot of these restaurants won't be able to open, and even if they open at the limited capacity, because their rent is high and because their expenses are high, I'm not sure it's sustainable or how sustainable the model will be for them to continue unless we fully reopen. I'm not sure when that's going to be. We're talking about a vaccine, could be far away. I mean, right now you can see we're eating outside. There's traffic going by. We're kind of freaking out. We're hoping we're not getting hit, right? But look, they're going to move at the end of the month. In New York, right, the end of September, they're going to offer 25% indoor dining. We really don't know what that means in terms of how that's actually going to work, in terms of the disinfectants needed, HVACs, some kind of ventilation system. So hopefully, the weather holds up and we can still eat outside, but you can see it's clearly kind of pursuant to the weather. It's like a baseball game. If it rains, what happens? If it's cold, what are we going to do in terms of a combination of indoor and outdoor dining? We really get so many people at 25% indoor, hopefully outdoor is sustainable. I guess we could get lamps and tents, but I'm not sure this is really practical.
Yeah, I know from your postings primarily, Manny, we've seen what's been going on in New York. How are the neighborhoods surviving these days?
So I'm on West Broadway right now, between Park Place and Murray Street, and one of the fallouts, unfortunately, from the COVID close downs and the COVID lockdowns that we had in New York State, we lost a lot of businesses and a lot of restaurants and a lot of mom and pop shops. And you can see behind me, the whole street is completely boarded up, and there's no way these businesses are going to come back, unfortunately. There's a pizza joint on the corner that I've been to. It's a really good spot. It's part of a bigger chain. It closed down. There's a nail salon. There's a couple businesses that have been shuttered shut down throughout Corona, and it's quite unfortunate because I don't think they're going to come back. I don't think they're going to reopen, and you can see they're completely boarded up. So it looks like things are in pretty bad shape here, and unfortunately it's representative of what's happening in wider New York City. You're just not seeing it right now in the mainstream media. It's unfortunately not being covered in terms of what's going on and the economic situation that a lot of New Yorkers are in, particularly small businesses. So this block, I think, is reflective of what's happening broader in New York City in terms of businesses are shuttered, businesses have not reopened because of the COVID lockdowns and quarantines, and it doesn't look like they're going to reopen anytime soon.
Wow, Manny, just amazing. And you're just a few blocks from the financial hub of New York City, down there with the Freedom Tower and everything else. Isn't it amazing the rents that they used to get down there?
We're at the Oculus right now at the World Trade Center. And as you can see, there's not many people here. It's usually very, very busy. And it was super busy before the coronavirus. Due to the corona pandemic lockdowns, we've suffered immeasurably in New York. And representative is what's going on behind me right here at the Oculus. There's a lot of stores at the lower levels, pretty much empty. The PATH train is on the other side connecting New York and New Jersey. Even that, you can see there's not much going on here. Pretty sad. This used to be a real bustling place in New York City and important to New York City.
Yeah, the Oculus, that's the 9/11 gateway to basically all of the PATH trains over to New Jersey and so forth.
This is what we built after 9/11, so this means a lot to us, but unfortunately there's not many people because of the COVID lockdowns.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Manny. I've seen the violence and looting here in Chicago, and obviously you've been documenting what's going on in New York. What's your take on it?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, we had some violence in New York City. We had some looting, and things aren't as safe as they used to be. And right now, when you go out at nighttime, you might see people by certain areas and certain neighborhoods and certain restaurants, but it's not like it used to be, you know? And I'm kind of worried about the fact that New York won't be safe again in the future, and we need to take that into account, right? We need to make sure that New York is one of the safest cities, supposedly, as it used to be, at least according to our mayor.
Oh yeah, your mayor. You mean Warren Wilhelm Jr.?
We had a lot of violence. There's a lot of gun violence going on right now, and we need to be concerned about that and face reality. And New York is not the city that it used to be in terms of safety. So yes, that's a great question. I think a lot of people are worried right now about their safety, which is impacting people when they go out and hurting our economy even more.
Great chatting with you, Manny. Hey, tell them who you are again. I'll post it with your Twitter handle so that they can follow you and get more information about what's going on from boots on the ground in New York City.
This is Manny Alicandro. I gotta go now. I'll see you soon. Take care, John.
Manny, boy, you made it. You hit me right here, buddy. And you made me miss New York City in a big way. I wish I could go back there. I know I could go back there for a day or two, but they're not letting us into the studio at CNBC because they're keeping things safe, and I can't blame them for that. But one of the things that I'm really concerned about is safety, because Manny mentioned safety, folks, and we're not going to see people out on the streets at night, in particular in some of the parts of New York that were so much fun prior to this COVID and the pandemic and all. I think Warren Wilhelm Jr., yeah, that's Bill de Blasio, needs to make sure he's keeping New Yorkers safe, and instead of defunding the police, refund the police so that people can actually move around in New York, and maybe even give these restaurants a chance at survival and these gyms and so forth a chance at survival, because New York's a great place, but it needs to have people get off its throat, because right now there's a boot on the throat of New York, and that boot is these lockdowns and the people that are rioting and looting and so forth. So hopefully all that gets under control and New York comes back bigger and better like it always has. And you'd like to be on one of these interviews, you know what? Drop us a line in the comments below. Let us know where you're at, what kind of work you're doing, and maybe we can get out there and get Andrew to fly out and do an interview with you.